further ado, I'm going to, first of all, introduce Kate, who's our Chief People Officer at Caseware, and Elise, who's our Head of Global Comms at Caseware as well. So over to you. Looking forward to your presentation.
Thank
you.
you.
Both, ladies.
Thank you so much. Right, can everyone hear us, see us? Brilliant. That's
Hello,
a good
hello.
start. So we're going to get right into it because we do have quite a lot to cover. I'm a comms person. I'm going to try not to talk the whole time because that's what comms people do because they're really annoying.
I'll just take a seat. I'm good. Yeah.
So Kate Muller, already introduced, Chief People Officer at Caseware. We're going to talk about sustaining a vibrant culture across a global organisation. However, this could apply to organisations that have lots of different locations in other settings, whether it be country or region. So, Kate, 30 seconds. What does Caseware International do? Where are we?
What is Caseware? Hi. So we provide solutions for auditors and accountants globally. That's my pitch. There you go. No, I'm kidding. But a little bit about Caseware. So we are a global organization. We have employees in about 15 different countries, 14 offices around the world. We had, I think last year, about 7 acquisitions. So big global presence, which is exciting, just under 1,000 people globally. And we're venture capital backed. So it's a lot of interesting dynamics at play, but hopefully that helps kind of add a little bit of context to some of the solutions and ideas that we have today.
So you've mentioned offices around the globe. That presents its own challenges as well as the other points you just mentioned.
Yeah.
How on earth do you develop a cohesive culture against that backdrop?
We're trying hard. So I've been with Caseware also about 2 years. So it's a bit of a journey. Like I think we use that word a lot in HR, a bit of a journey, but we have, first it's just the tools and the systems that we have. So not only the actual tools that we have, we also have part of our systems and all from onboarding, offboarding, things like that. Those are kind of more the practical elements. But when we think about how do we connect our employees, I talk about it a lot in barriers. So lowering the barriers, especially for a tech workforce. Half of our organization are software engineers. So a lot of kind of more heads down focus kind of work. And so how do we lower those barriers to really create those connections across the organization, especially through different cultural barriers, different like literally distance between team members? How do we create those connections? Even just a simple thing of algorithmic coffee chats and saying, hey, you and Elise are going to connect and talk is enough of a barrier to create a community. So it's been really successful for us. The other Did you have something? Oh, sorry. The other piece of it, so that's just the tools perspective. So we really focus on lowering those barriers, bringing people together. But the other piece of it is intentionally focusing on the geographies. We have the nature of our business and the nature of our work. We need to be locally present. So from an accounting and auditing perspective, there's local regulations. We need that subject matter expertise. So then from that, how do we highlight and embrace that part of our workforce? So we're global. We have a one Caseware community is what we call ourselves globally. But shifting that to say, how do we highlight the really unique parts of our organization that are also local? So looking at it from a local perspective and raising it up for a global and highlighting all of those wonderful aspects of our dynamic organization. So what are we doing in the Netherlands versus Germany versus Colombia versus any place in APAC, Australia, and saying that's really cool and unique and special about our Caseware journey, and it's happening locally, and sharing that globally to make it feel that we're all together in a smaller way. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful, thank you. I think everybody in the room would probably agree that we are all individually driven by our own personal code, our own values. How, in a global organisation, Kate, do you bring corporate values to the fore and make sure that they still resonate for people? Can they actually really apply to all, ever?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So I said I joined Caseware about 2 years ago, a little bit over that. And when I joined, we went through a massive rebranding as an organization. So from an external perspective, we went through a rebrand. And as part of that was absolutely important that we also looked internally. So we're going through this shift as an organization, but that means also bringing our employees along. And Elise you might be able to test this. I don't think anybody can pick up a mic in our organization and not talk about a corporate value.
Absolutely true.
Yeah. And so that's especially the executive team. There's not really an opportunity where we're talking and we're not somehow relating it, of course, back to our corporate values. It's how we make decisions. It's how we know that we're on the right track as an organization. And we keep it simple and we just repeat it over and over again. And the beautiful part is, I always like to hear in a coffee chat when somebody repeats back a corporate value. That's a little like victory. And I'm like, okay, we're doing the right thing. People kind of say it back. But the work, so that's kind of the table stakes, right? And so the work that we're working on now as part of our journey is also that intersection between the corporate values and then employee personal values. And so that's kind of that little bit more of that intricate work that we're doing from a strategy perspective so we have this rebrand, we've had, years of experience and we talk about it all the time. And then how do we align almost that wellness strategy aligned with our corporate values so that people kind of resonate with the organization on a very deep way. And so that's something that we're doing. And that's beyond the total rewards, beyond the compensation. That's actually absolutely something we've been working on. And bringing 7 organizations into one in about a year and a half has been quite a journey and just literal total reward space. But what we're kind of working on now is bringing that back to the kind of deep value of why am I here and why did I choose Caseware and why am I bringing all of that innovation and passion to the work that we're doing. And that's kind of that deeper level work that we're working on now, which is exciting. Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it? In a former role, I actually had the head of communications and head of culture title. And I won't name the organization, but we were in a situation where we needed to really shift some mindsets around things. People were talking about, we need a culture program, and that needs to focus on how we pay our people more, how we give them better compensation. Now, we all like pay rises. I would imagine everybody in the room enjoys a pay rise. That's great. But what's actually interesting is that Psychology Today discovered that the feel-good factor from a pay rise lasts, any thoughts, how long? 7 days.
Yeah.
7 days. So you need quite a few pay rises each year in order to, keep feeling good about that.
Wait a second, yeah.
So my suggestion, Kate, is, it's not all about compensation, is it? What else is in the mix for people today?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you're right. At the end of the day, as long as, we are a trusted organization, we're paying people appropriately in the markets that they're working in the industry and everything, then that aside, if people feel comfortable and trusted, then it's about why am I here and why would I make sure to continue to stay here and invest. And we're doing a lot of work around some of our recognition programs and then our performance management program. So from a recognition perspective, we have an MVP of the month. It's employee nominated, so it's peer nominated, and then it goes through kind of a little a vetting committee, as you would. Of course, HR have to have that part of it. But it's really cool because it's a peer-to-peer recognition, and it's our top recognition. So we do a ton of work to highlight, promote, make sure that is seen and felt as our number one recognition. It's put in our Caseware newsletter. It's talked about from our executive team. It's tons of shout out from all of our kind of local small channels as well. And that's a huge one. And we really make sure that it's a global recognition. So at the end of the year, we look back and it's truly representing our global workforce in a really unique way. And the other one is from a performance perspective, making sure that we're enabling our leaders to really look at their global workforce. And it's not just about kind of the teams that they see and talk to every day, but how do they make sure that they're acknowledging and including those team members from around the world from a performance recognition, promotion, comp increase aspect as well. So lots of different ways.
And I think it's really important, I would say this, wouldn't I, as a comms person, I think it's really important to think about the themic aspects to what we're talking about. So there are certain behavioural traits or themes that I think it's really important to discuss as colleagues and employees. So things like authenticity, things like the importance of data-rich feedback. And actually, one of the things we do at Caseware is we regularly share thought leadership sessions. We get together as communities, we debate, we discuss, we pull apart. We are brutally honest, but with kindness. And I think that's really important that you're talking about the type of organization that you want to be and the type of employee you want to be, how you treat your colleagues, how you can expect to be treated yourself. And that discussion piece is huge, isn't it, Kate?
It is. And I think that's important. Absolutely. I think in any organization, that transparency, that trust. But if you take even the lens of who are our customers, our clients, and our internal employees, they're accountants and auditors that tend to be, data driven, very focused. They want to see data. They want to see transparent information and authenticity, absolutely, as part of even just the profession. So we kind of step up to that challenge. And of course, as an organization, we want to be honest and factual and everything like that. But it's even more that level of scrutiny because of the nature of the team members that we have as part of our organization. And so because of that, it's just a lot about how do you communicate that effectively? How do you acknowledge and embrace that aspect of our culture, our employee experience, and the profession, and really highlight that? And that comes across in the themes, the kind of information we share in town halls, the kind of information we talk about, bringing in expertise to kind of bring in part of that innovation. And that just kind of breeds itself to all different parts of our organization. So, yeah.
You mentioned challenge. I'm going to set you a challenge in the room.
A challenge in the room.
A challenge in the room.
Okay.
How do you perfect your organizational culture? I know you know the answer to this, right? Yeah, you've got all the answers.
A perfect culture. Oh, that's great. How many? Okay, 9 minutes. Perfect. Okay, let me lay it out for you. 10-point plan, a perfect culture. Surprise, no perfect culture. If anyone has a perfect culture, it'd be great if you raise your hand. We can talk after. No, it's intentionally a journey, as the organization evolves, especially the amount of change that we're all under. I know we talked about in the keynote address even. Yes, journey is probably a word we use, probably overuse. But it's important that we're always kind of focusing on it and making sure that we're able to kind of iterate on that cultural element and what is our priorities and focus year after year. So there's no such thing as a perfect culture, but it's something that we focus on. The part of it that's really interesting and dynamic, I think you use this word, culture big C and culture small c, especially in our organization, is also through the acquisitions. So we're going through and I like to say we became a global organization overnight. We were a Canadian-based company for 32 years. And then overnight, in probably a year and a half time, we became a global organization. And it's like, there you go, there's your culture. Okay, we're done now. It's never like that. And what I thought was really interesting over the last 2 years as part of that is because of our corporate values, because we had this rebrand, we had this really clear direction on one Caseware. We're a global company, global organization, global brand, global culture, right? And we spent a year talking about that. And then through our engagement survey, we got a ton of feedback about the regions. And so when I say it's a journey, we're focusing, we had a lot of feedback about, we get where we're going as a strategy. We understand that makes sense. What are we doing to recognize me from a regional perspective? And that was really poignant and interesting and transparent from the organization of how are we also recognizing and supporting our culture. So I said it's part of our journey. It's also part of our employee feedback that we're getting. So we're saying, thank you so much. How do we now pivot our culture to say, yes, we're all part of one Caseware, one culture, but how do we highlight and recognize those team members? So it was a really cool opportunity for us to say, thank you so much. That's awesome. Now, how do we go make sure that we're recognizing that? And there's tons of ways that we're doing that through the partnership Elise and I have on even just highlighting and talking not only about the employee experience, but also what's happening in the industry that maybe doesn't directly impact me in one country or one region, but it's really part of kind of promoting that pride from a cultural perspective. So we're doing a lot of work there. And then from a talent, I'd say attraction perspective, really highlighting and recognizing our global workforce. So it's been a really powerful tool from a talent attraction perspective, highlighting our geographic diversity around the organization. So as we're finding talent all over the world and also embracing the talent that's joined us through kind of more of an acquisition type of experience, a lot of times team members are joining us and saying, I'm coming from an organization of, let's say, 40 people, 50 people, and I know every single person because I've worked with them for 20 years, to now we're a global workforce. And really embracing that. We've had so many team members say, I finally feel seen as part of an organization because when I talk to a recruiter who sits in Canada, but then my manager might sit in the UK, but then my closest colleague who's working on this software actually might sit in Australia. It's like, it's overwhelming but exciting, and something that we've started to talk more and more about, that team members can step into a truly global organization, and that's through our processes, our systems, our platforms that we have from an HR and communication perspective. That's truly something that we're embracing and bringing at the forefront. So it's not a secret. We're definitely global and everyone feels it. And we have lots of feedback from candidates of saying, I feel so seen and represented as part of even just the candidate experience, which is exciting.
And talk to me a little bit about Hungry, Humble, Smart.
Yes. Hungry, humble, smart. I don't think we invented it, but it is something that we absolutely embrace and embed into our candidate experience and our hiring process. Again, I think it kind of resonates also from the industry that we're in. So looking at that from an accounting perspective, we want people with great ideas who are able to share those ideas and come to the table, who are hungry to also make an impact into the industry that we're revolutionizing the industry, and we're excited that people want to be part of that journey. But that journey doesn't mean that it's always going to be easy. So team members who want to be part of that, want to be part of that build phase of what we're working on, and humble enough to say, I don't know all the answers, but I want to take part of this, what's going on here. And that's really exciting for us. So hungry, humble, smart is something that we kind of own. We say it. It's probably one of our maybe sub values that we talk about as well. Yeah.
If there are 2 or 3 things that our audience today could take away,
Ooh.
Share those, please.
To perfect their culture?
I'm sure they're very close anyway. But yeah, a couple of things you would say as key takeaways.
I would say key takeaways. The first word that comes to mind is perseverance. It's not necessarily easy work that we're doing, but it's super important. Bringing the employee experience along on the journey that we're on is fundamental to making sure that we're successful in an organization, but it's not always easy. And we do have to pivot sometimes, right? And so that perseverance of stay with it. We have that light at the end of the tunnel, keep going. I talk about that a lot to my HR team as well. So we talk our people operations, is what we say in Caseware. Just stick with it. We know where we're heading. It's not every day is not always easy as part of that journey, but we got this. Communicating, you can't over communicate enough, especially learn that lesson absolutely through the acquisitions, but over communicating and really recognize that where everybody might not be on the same journey when we're doing so many acquisitions. And so really recognizing and honoring that change journey, that those smaller teams might be part of the bigger organization, and then having fun. The work that we're doing is super exciting. And so in intentionally adding fun, kind of surprise and delight elements into the work and the processes that we have, I think are super important, especially with so much change and everything. If we're not having fun, what are we doing here? So that's definitely something that we embed into our culture as well. A little cheeky surprise and delight along the way, I think, just adds that kind of sense of relief to the employee experience, that we're all in this together, and you have to laugh.
You might as well be enjoying it, right?
Yeah, you might as well be enjoying it.
Absolutely. I think we might have time for maybe one or two questions. Oh, hand shut up.
Okay.
At the back of the room. Wow.
Could you give an example of one of those surprise and delight kind of moments that you create?
Oh, the surprise and delight. I'm trying to think of one. That's a really good one. Okay, I'm thinking about the engagement survey. Yeah. So again, thinking about I think about the organizations that joined us. So overnight, joining a massive organization that's headquartered in North America was such an experience for people. And so an employee engagement survey is really important for us. So we were saying, how do we get people to trust us as an organization? You can share your feedback. You can be honest. We are listening to it. And we had pretty good participation, and then pretty good, but we really wanted more. And so we had a pancake breakfast for any region that had 100% participation in their engagement survey. And everyone was like, "What, you're going to do what?" And so we actually went to the offices and had that opportunity to share breakfast or lunch and broke a meal with people. And we had, I think, 7 of our regions have 100% participation. And then we actually, you know, follow through, of course, with all of that. And it was such a kind of a big global engagement survey. Seems overwhelming, but then you're also breaking bread and having breakfast with team members from the executive team was part of it as well. And I think people were like, oh, wait, that's really endearing. And I think that won us a lot of favor, I think.
I think it was the point about it being led by the executive team is so important because, yes, it's a practical thing, it's a tangible thing, but it demonstrates absolute commitment to the whole function of our people operations, our culture. And actually, Kate is a huge advocate of setting the ELT, of which she is part. Various challenges, whether it be sporty, culinary, you name it, they get all sorts.
Culinary.
But they embrace them, which is a really nice thing because it shows that executive level support for everything that Kate and the team are doing.
Thanks.
Good, amazing.
Thank
I'm
you.
really sorry. We're going to have to call to a close. But first of all, big round of applause for a great